life. And listen very carefully. Here in Wonderland, it's my way or the executioner's way, which means if you even think about painting my roses red, you will lose your head. Got it? Now then, who wants to play croquet? Or even better, who wants to play a game of cards? I promise I have a good poker face. Hi everybody, this is Cherise, also known as Sherry or Cher, or if you guys go on Stardust, I am indeed Sherry the Dizwiz. And I hope you guys enjoyed a little intro that I did, because today I will be talking about Heather, the daughter of Queen of Hearts. Before we get started, let me just change out of this costume, because I am getting really uncomfortable in this costume. It is a lot of layers in this headpiece. Oh, I swear, I feel like I'm gonna pass out. Just give me 1 second, okay guys? There we go. Nice and comfy. Oh, I even like the shirt that I'm wearing, even though it's pink roses and the song from the original 1953 film. Actually, not 53, 51. I should know this. I'm a Disney freak. Duh. You know, paint and the rose is red. Paint and the rose is red. If I continue to sing the song, I'm gonna get copyright. Shh. But anyways, yes, I'm going to be talking about Heather's backstory, and for those of you guys who are not familiar and know what the heck I'm talking about, Neil decided to create this, like, Descendants DandD game, and each of us had to create our own characters. So, Neil created Jolly, the son of Jack Skellington and Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas. Callum created Brock, the son of Kronk from Emperor's New Groove, and I created Heather, the daughter of the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. And I don't know if you guys have seen the backstories for Jolly and Brock, but I highly recommend you guys do. Because, well, my story will intertwine with some of theirs, but not all of it. Heather is going to have her own backstory, as I'll explain along the way. But again, you know, just for fun, just watch all 3 of those videos, including this one. Did I say 3? I meant 2. This is the 3rd one. Then again, Neil did say that he was going to combine all the videos together. I should probably stop talking and just get started, okay? Let's get started. So, Heather is the daughter of the Queen of Hearts. Get it? You know, because cards. Yeah. Anyway, so she was born in Wonderland. Now, this is before they get kicked out, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about Heather's backstory. So, like I said, Heather was born in Wonderland to the King and Queen of Hearts. The Queen of Hearts didn't die. She's in Wonderland. It's not really explained how that works, but we're just gonna take it, just say, you know, Queen of Hearts didn't die. Anyway, so Heather grew up in Wonderland for about 5 years, and she's just randomly walking in the Wonderland woods one day when she's about 5, and she sees a cat in a tree, and it turns out that this cat is the son of the Cheshire Cat. His name is Chester, and the two meet, they talk, and then all of a sudden, and out of, like, really all of a sudden, Chester gets eaten by a giant Venus flytrap. Because Wonderland is topsy-turvy. Nothing makes sense. So Heather has to find a way to save Chester, so what she does is she basically takes a mushroom. Now, if you've seen, like, the original 1951 movie, you know, the part with Alice with, like, the blue caterpillar, I think, and, you know, one side of the mushroom makes it taller, the other one makes it smaller. I think that's how they explain it in the movie. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, so she eats the mushroom, she makes herself, you know, big, and she basically takes this Venus flytrap, cracks it open, yeah. She's really badass. And she basically gets Chester out of the Venus flytrap. And I know what you guys are thinking, like, can't Chester, like, disappear or use some of his, like, his father's, like, magic, whatever? Well, Chester is still young, so he's still learning how those things work. But, yeah, so Heather saves Chester and the two become great friends. I also want to mention that, throughout her early childhood in Wonderland, Heather did make some new friends, you know, the sons and daughters of each of the creatures and people of Wonderland, including the Tweedle twins. Don't ask how that happened, because that's kind of awkward. And Marilyn Hatter. I know this is Madeline Hatter from Ever After High, but we're gonna pretend that this is Marilyn Hatter, daughter of the Mad Hatter. We're gonna pretend that this is his. And you know, Chester and all of them and Heather, they basically had like tea parties, celebrated on birthdays, played croquet, and all other Wonderland games. And everything was going fine until little Miss Alice here. I know this is Blondie Locks, but we're going to pretend that this is Alice. Alice basically warns, like, Belle and Beast and some of the people from, like, Oregon that they might want to watch out for the Queen of Hearts because she has a temper tantrum and anger management issues, and she might just basically start chopping off heads because anything ticks her off, and that's what I was saying. Don't paint the roses red. So basically, Heather and the Queen of Hearts had to leave Oregon, and they were booted to the Isle because they were considered a threat. Very sad. So like I said, Heather and the Queen of Hearts were booted off of Wonderland into the Isle of the Lost because, well, we all know what the Queen of Hearts is like. And she likes to chop off people's heads, so yeah. Anyways, the two of them trying to find a home. Yes, Chester went along with Heather because, again, the two are really tight with each other. And when they're trying to find a home on the Isle, they run into a little girl who is sending out invitations to her birthday party. And Heather just so happens to be invited to this birthday party for this little girl. And mind you, she's like 5, you know, and it's the little girl's 6th birthday. And that little girl turned out to be Evie, the daughter of the evil queen. So the two of them actually clicked together, and Heather felt bad that she didn't have a gift for Evie, but Evie was like, no, just come on, we're gonna have some fun. And for once, Heather felt really happy, and she found a new friend. And like I said, Heather and Evie, they clicked like that. And they went to the birthday party, and Heather met all the other villain kids, and the villains are on the Isle. Everything's going great until Maleficent arrives with her daughter Mal, because, well, Mal wasn't invited to Evie's birthday party, and we all know how Maleficent feels when she's not invited to a party. Yeah, it's kind of messed up. But anyways, Maleficent has the villains, like, shoo off and go off to their own place, and she basically banishes Evie and the evil queen to a faraway place that's not near her. It's still in the Isle, but just nowhere near Maleficent. And Heather felt really bad because she literally just met a new friend, and she didn't want to see Evie suffer. So Evie and Heather, they became roommates for about 9 years, give or take. And yeah, they went to castle school together. They basically hung out for 9 years, going to castle school, going to Lady Tremaine's Curl and Dye to get like manicures and pedicures. And Heather taught, you know, Evie the ways of Wonderland, at least what she remembered when at her time in Wonderland. And Heather also, they both played with like Chester. It was all great. And everything was going great until 9 years later, Evie and the evil queen decide to go to Dragon Hall. Now, Dragon Hall is basically where all the villain kids go to school to be, you know, to learn to be bad just like their parents. So, once again, Heather was, sorry for the pun, she was heartbroken. I apologize for that pun. Heather had to say goodbye to her childhood friend that she knew for like 9 years. And, yeah, it's really sad. And Heather begged her mother to go to Dragon Hall, and she didn't want to be at the castle school anymore. But the Queen of Hearts, you know, it's my way, or the executioner's way. So she was like, no. And then 6 months later, the Queen of Hearts decided, yeah, you know what? I'll let you do this Dragon Hall school. You just have to be just like me. If you don't, I'm gonna cut off your head. You will lose your head! Again, kind of messed up there. So, Heather was so excited that she was finally going to see Evie again and maybe make some new friends. But unfortunately, Heather was a little too late when she arrived at the Dragon Hall School because Evie was on a quest with Mal, Jane, Carlos. And again, Heather is heartbroken. She's sad that she can't be there with her best friend. On her way to home, because Heather just got out of Dragon Hall, she hears a noise and it's coming from the bush, and she peeks inside the bush and she sees a random head. Now, obviously, Heather is used to seeing headless bodies because, you know, again, Queen of Hearts. Anyways, she picks up the head, and the head explains that his name is Jolly, son of Jack Skellington and Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas. And this is the part where I keep forgetting. So if I remember correctly, Neil, please correct me on this. So Jolly lost his head. I forgot how, but he ended up on the Isle because Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather thought that he was the Headless Horseman. Again, Neil, you can correct me on this. I have really bad memory right now. I'm so sorry. Anyways, so Heather decides to help Jolly find the rest of his body, and the two end up in a kitchen where Brock, the son of Kronk from Ember's New Groove, again, this is Callum's character, he's cooking and he's having Jolly's body carry things around. And so Heather and Jolly, I'm sorry. Heather and Jolly end up in the kitchen. And, you know, they see Brock and they're like, hello sir, I'm Heather, daughter of Queen of Hearts, and this is, Jolly. We're looking for his head. Have you happened to see a headless body running around in this kitchen? And then Brock was like, I mean, I don't know about a headless body. I mean, I have someone carrying stuff for me if you want to ask him about it. Sorry, that's my impression of Brock. I'm assuming that's how he talks. I'm really bad with impressions. I do apologize. But anyways, Jolly's body just came back into the kitchen after they just talked, and they're like, and Jolly's like, oh yeah, that's my head. So Heather and Brock put Jolly's body back together again, and Jolly was able to leave the Isle. Of course, Heather felt sad that she's losing another friend. Let's just say Heather, she has abandonment issues. But luckily, you know, Jolly visited time on, time off again, and Jolly was able to visit the Isle through a secret passageway that the Beast from, like, you know, Beauty and the Beast was able to show him. Neil can clarify on that part. So, Brock wanted to help a squirrel become human, so he convinced Jolly to sneak Brock and Heather off the Isle and break into the museum in Oridon. Again, I'm reading off of the notes here, so bear with me. So they go into the museum to get Yzma's potions. You know, Yzma, voiced by the late Eartha Kitt, may she rest in peace, from Emperor's New Groove. Love her. Anyway, so once they get the potions out the way, Heather gets entranced by Maleficent's staff. Now, if you remember from Descendants 3, spoilers, you know Audrey from the scene, like the Queen of Mean scene, where she gets entranced by a Maleficent staff and she turns into this, which, by the way, gorgeous. It's kind of similar to what Heather kind of went through. So Heather gets entranced by Maleficent's staff, and when she touches Maleficent's staff, the three kids get transported into Neverland, where they lose the potions. Luckily, they meet the Lost Boys, and they kind of turn into, like, the scavenger hunt. So, yeah, the Lost Boys set up a scavenger hunt for them to find the potions. And while doing the hunt, they find a bag of pixie dust. And, you know, they assume, like, the Lost Boys must have dropped it. So they're trying to find the potions. And the last potion, which happens to be the one where they turn human, it's underwater on top of a waterfall, and the squirrel, because the squirrel also got transported to Neverland, The squirrel got stuck underwater trying to get it, and scrambling to save the squirrel, all three kids decide to use the pixie dust to help them fly, but only Heather was able to use it to fly. You can fly, you can fly, you can fly, you can fly, you can fly. I apologize for my singing. My voice is kind of raspy because I did a lot of yelling from the intro. But anyways, Heather tried to fly Brock up to help the squirrel get unstuck, but Heather accidentally dropped Brock. And after grabbing the squirrel and the potion, he began to fall down to the waterfall. In desperation, Jolly tried to use Maleficent's staff that was teleported with them when they got to Neverland. And since Jolly had never been tempted by evil, it works for him. So Jolly was able to save everyone, and the three of them were able to get back to the museum. Of course, you know, Heather is a villain kid, so she's not allowed to be in Auradon. So Jolly had to rush Heather and Brock back to the Isle. And while all this is happening, we find out that the squirrel was Yzma the entire time. What? So yeah, that's the end of the Neverland story. So, Heather really wants to get off the Isle. She's tired of being on the Isle. She's tired of not being able to see her friends. And so she decides to go to Wonderland to show Jolly and Brock, you know, the place where she grew up for her first 5 years of her life. They decide to teleport through Chester. Magic, of course, it goes haywire and it goes wrong because when you're in the Isle, you're not allowed to use any magic. So the three and Chester end up in the underworld, and they're trying to figure out how to get out of the underworld until they are confronted and attacked by Cerberus, you know, the three-headed dog. So Heather runs away with Chester while Brock and Jolly fight Cerberus. Because Brock is able to talk to animals, Brock has a conversation with Cerberus to try to figure out, like, hey, big dog, woof, 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 woof. Again, I'm assuming that's how Brock, you know, talks to Cerberus. And, Brock finds out that Cerberus lost his squeaky ball in the river Styx. Yes, Cerberus has a squeaky ball. You can imagine how they fight over that squeaky ball. But anyways, the boys decide to make a deal with Cerberus to get the squeaky ball in exchange for their freedom. Meanwhile, Heather and Chester keep running until they run into Helena, the daughter of Hades. Now, I actually did create Helena. She was like one of the first characters I created along with Heather. But anyways, Helena really despises Heather's personality, and she's angry that Heather is alive. Heather is alive. And before Helena can do anything to Heather, she hears Hercules in the underworld, and he's trying to look for Pain and Panic to get to the Isle. So, of course, Helena starts freaking out, and Heather thinks of an idea. She basically decides to help Helena get rid of Hercules in exchange to help her and the boys get back to the Isle. So meanwhile, the boys are at the river Styx, and they see dead people. Anyways, Cerberus warns the boys not to touch or fall into the river, so they decide to use one of Jolly's limbs, I'm assuming his hand, to use as like a fishing rod to fetch the squeaky ball out of the river, and they were able to get the squeaky ball and give it back to Cerberus. Unfortunately, the boys are confronted by Pain and Panic, so they have to use the ball to guide Cerberus out and to find Heather. Meanwhile, the girls are trying to plan to get rid of Hercules. Helena has Heather pretend to be a goddess, let's just say Aphrodite, and Heather suggests to have Chester help, make sure that, it goes smoothly and the plan works. So, Heather confronts Hercules and pretends to be Aphrodite. Of course, Hercules isn't really fooled by this at first, And Heather decides to prove to Hercules that she really is Aphrodite through a series of tests. So basically, Hercules tests Heather through like flying, changing clothes or like appearances, and disappearing, which Chester is able to use his magic to manipulate and make sure that Heather is fooling Hercules. And Heather explains that taking pain and panic would cause chaos and destruction, and Hercules is fooled by this and he leaves the underworld. Of course, Helena is relieved that Hercules is gone, but she never said thanks to Heather. And Heather wonders about Helena's backstory, and the two girls exchange stories. Anyways, Helena finally admits to Heather that she's a good friend, and the two girls hug each other as Jolly and Brock are riding Cerberus, and they find the two girls. So Helena is able to get the three kids back to the Isle, and Heather promises Helena that she will visit the underworld, and Helena is glad to make a new friend. Uma is escaping the Isle using, because she found Mal's spell book that Mal left when they were trying to rescue Ben. And Arya, the daughter of Orissa, the blonde mermaid that's one of Ariel's sisters from The Little Mermaid, she sees Uma breaking out, tries to stop her, but Uma basically puts her into the Isle, and she escapes to go to the cotillion. So Jolly meets Arya, and the two try to figure out how to get her back to Atlantica. So Ursula finds out that Uma escaped the Isle, and she sees Arya and Jolly talking and is enraged. So Jolly and Arya meet Heather at Ursula's Fish and Chips, and they discuss how to get Arya out of the Isle. Of course, they see Harry and Gil, the pirate crewmates of Uma, leaving the restaurant with Fairy Godmother's wand. And the three of them are kind of suspicious. It's like, what are they up to? So anyways, the three of them decide to follow Harry and Gil. Arya stayed behind to make sure that no one was following them, while Heather and Jolly go onto the ship, only to be captured and confronted by the crew. So Harry looks at Jolly a little strangely, and he remembers hearing stories about how Jolly was able to defeat his father, Captain Hook, and Mr. Smee. And then he sees Heather and is freaked out by her because he knows her mother is, again. And Heather reassures Harry that her mother isn't here, his head's not going to get chopped off. Of course, Harry doesn't believe her and demands to know why she is on the ship. And Heather is like, well, why do you have Fairy Godmother's magic wand? What are you two up to? And Gil was like, actually, the wand's actually fake. Of course, he's cut off by Harry because, Harry's like, shut up, Gil. They're not supposed to know that. And Harry decides to tempt Heather by making her join Harry and the crew to get out the Isle. Now, like I said before, Heather has some abandonment issues. She really wants to get out of this Isle and, to be with Jolly, to be with Brock and everyone else as she met, see Evie again. But Jolly was able to convince Heather not to fall for any of Harry's tricks, and Heather denies the offer. So Harry insists to make another deal with Heather by challenging her and Jolly to a boat race, and if Heather wins, they get the wand. If they don't win, Harry gets Chester. Yes, Chester is involved in this. I just forgot to briefly mention about that. Sorry. Harry and Gil are on the Jolly Roger, while Heather and Jolly are on the lifeboat that Jolly had from Merrill Sparrow, son of Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean. Go check out Neil's backstory for Jolly if you're not too familiar with that character. Of course, Arya is there to help them out, and the competition begins, and the Jolly Roger just sets off, and Heather and Jolly and Aria, they're trying to figure out how to catch up to them. They're using Jolly's limbs to paddle. Of course, the three of them are gaining some momentum, but they still need to figure out how to pass the Jolly Roger, and the ships were passing Ursula's fish and chips, and Ursula spots, Heather, Jolly, and Aria, and tries to attack them by going after Aria because she is a niece of Ariel, try to use her as some type of bargain to get off the isle. Harry and Gil, they stop the boat and see what's going on. Aria decides to jump into the water and stop Ursula, and she manages to tie up Ursula's tentacles together. And Heather discovers that Aria is a mermaid, and she got some ideas. So Heather has Aria tied to the boat and have her swim, kind of like pulling the boat. So there's like some type of rope, Aria is kind of tied, and she's basically swims as fast as she can to pull kind of like the boat to, make sure that they win. And they were able to finish first place, and they beat Harry and Gil. Yay. So, Heather, Jolly, and Aria, they win. But Harry doesn't want to get the wand back. So, Heather takes out Harry's hook because while they were trying to tie Aria to the boat, Heather uses one of Jolly's hands to go onto the Jolly Roger and steal Harry's hook. Because, if you've seen like Descendants 2, Harry's weakness is that his hook. He really loves his hook really much. And if something happens to it, he's kind of done. So, Harry begs Heather to give him back his hook. Heather says no, so Harry goes after her. So Heather decides to do like a little keep away with Jolly and Aria by having, they're basically tossing the hook around, and the hook ends up in Aria's hands, and Aria threatens to basically take the hook down to Atlantica, to the bottom of the sea, where Harry will never see it again. And Harry finally admits that the fairy godmother's wand is fake. Of course, Gil was like, Harry, you're not supposed to tell them that. You said we were supposed to keep that a secret. And, Harry just glares at Gil. He's like, shut up. So, Harry decides to give the wand back, and Heather tells Aria to give Harry's hook back. So, Aria does that, and Harry swears to get revenge on them and lets them off the ship. So, Jolly shows Aria the secret passageway to get back to Oridon, and Heather thanks Aria for the help as Jolly blindfolds Aria to go back to Oridon. So Heather really wants to go see Halloween Town and find out what Jolly, his backstory and what it was like for him to grow up in Halloween Town. So Heather, Brock, and Jolly, they go to Halloween Town, but first they have to go past Bald Mountain, and unfortunately they encounter the Headless Horseman. The three of them try to fight against the Headless Horseman, but they lose, and unfortunately Jolly loses his head again. Man. If the Queen of Hearts was here, she'd be like, off with your head! Oh, yeah. So now, Heather and Brock have to continue the path through Bald Mountain to get Jolly's head back. And as they're, continuing the path, they encounter Dr. Facilier and Hades and Chernabog. The two villains are trying to awaken Chernabog, and Brock thinks that Chernabog is a bat. So he tries to communicate with Chernabog while Dr. Facilier is just looking like, oh, this ought to be interesting. Meanwhile, Heather recognizes Hades, and she was about to mention Helena, but Hades, cut her off, and the two of them have a conversation about, the past and why Hades and Maleficent separated and they took their own child with them. I'm not going to go into that touchy subject, that's kind of awkward. But Heather mentions that Helena really wants to prove to Hades that she's worthy to be his daughter. And Hades feels kind of guilty that he basically left his daughter for so long. So, Dr. Facilier uses his shadows to awaken Chernabog, and there's this big fight. Hades tries to use his powers against Chernabog, but Chernabog basically grabs Brock and holds him hostage, and he basically flings Jolly's body off to a tree. So Hades and Heather have to go get the body, and Dr. Facilier, well, he's really not interested. He's just watching to see how everything's gonna go down. Jerk. Anyways, Hades and Heather, they find Jolly's body in the tree, and Heather still has the pixie dust from the Neverland story, so she uses it to fly up to the tree and get Jolly's body and have Hades catch him. So once Hades catches Jolly's body and Heather flies down, Hades decides to threaten Heather that he will kill Jolly if Heather tells anyone about Helena. And of course, cross her heart, she does, and Heather makes the promise that she wouldn't tell anybody. So the two of them plus Jolly's body go back up to the mountain, and they try to rescue Brock. Heather sees one of Yzma's vials, and she uses the vial, throws it at Chernabog, and Chernabog turns into this pink, fluffy bunny. Yeah, it's really cute. Almost as cute as a Senior Scratchy from WandaVision. But anyways, so basically Brock falls, Hades and Heather help Brock up, and Dr. Facilier takes the Chernabog bunny and hides it in his shadows. And after helping Brock, Heather and Hades are wondering where the Chernabog bunny is, and Dr. Facilier is like, oh, Chernabog's probably somewhere down the mountain. And the two villains decide to leave Heather and Brock to go find Jolly's head. And the two kids, they find a cave, and the Headless Horseman's horse is inside the cave, and Brock uses his talking animal abilities to communicate with the horse, and they find out that there are pumpkins in Halloween Town that never rot, so Heather and Brock make a deal with the Headless Horseman to get one of these pumpkins in exchange for Jolly's head. So the horseman accepts, and Brock and Heather go to Halloween Town, and they get a random pumpkin. Even Brock makes some type of jack-o'-lantern weird face on the pumpkin, and they give the pumpkin head to the Headless Horseman, and the Headless Horseman gives Brock and Heather Jolly's head, and they put Jolly's body back together again, just like the beginning. And that's the end of that. So I say probably after the barrier gets broken down in the third Descendants movie, Heather and Jolly have a long conversation about whether or not the villains have to go back to the Isle. Heather's worried that she might be abandoned if the villains go back to the Isle and Brock and Jolly stay in Oridon. And Jolly tells her that she shouldn't worry, and the two hug. And on the outside, Heather is happy, but on the inside, she still has that fear in the back of her head. And that's it. To be continued during the Descendants D&D game. Bloody hell! This is why you can't build a house out of cards. So thank you guys so much for listening to this backstory of Heather. I'm not too sure when we're going to be doing the Descendants D&D game. You guys might have to ask Neil about that. But again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Even though I'm recording this video and I do not have a YouTube account, I do have a Stardust account, Sherry the Dismiss. You guys can go follow me on there. I know I haven't really been posting a lot in a while because of school, but hopefully I can start posting more things. Maybe more Disney stuff, or if you guys have any questions about Descendants, you guys can ask me. And I also have a Twitter, but I don't really use my Twitter that much, honestly. I think the only reason why I just got Twitter in the first place was because I wanted to follow voice actors like Tara Strong. That's kind of awkward. But anyways, again, thank you guys so much. Even my dolls here, they all say thank you. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I don't know when I'll be back on the video because I'm not doing Falcon and Winter Soldier with the guys, but hopefully you guys will see my face again soon. So, until then, bye everybody, and don't lose your heads.